It is. It is. Okay. So, Dorothy, I think we need to wait just a few minutes so people show up. Normally, well, all the times I do this in my YouTube channel, so I have access to a private chat. Now I don't. I don't know how many people are attending. I can't see anybody. I didn't realize this. So
Okay.
it seems like we're just alone here because Nuno from Porta Editora is the one who has access to all of that. So
Right.
I'm sorry. But I know that my subscribers are here, so they will let me know. Oh, okay. Boa, Mariana. Mariana, let me just translate them, ok? Pessoal, eu não tenho acesso, como isto não está a ser do meu canal, está a ser transmitido da Porta Editora, eu não tenho acesso a quantas pessoas estão ou quem é que está desse lado, não consigo controlar aqui o chat do que é que vocês escrevem. Se calhar é o Nuno que está a pôr estas conversas. Estão 20 pessoas, pronto, o Nuno é o meu sidekick. Ok, so Dorothy, let's start. It's an honor. Thank you for being here tonight. It's a pleasure to meet you because I have been reading your books for like 12 years, probably.
Wow.
I'm very happy that we are doing this together. Can you share with our audience where are you staying tonight? Because it's very, very interesting.
I'm actually on holiday, so I'm not at home, but I'm staying at one of Jane Austen's houses. Jane Austen, the writer who wrote Pride and Prejudice and Emma, Sense and Sensibilities. Yeah, we're staying at one of her houses. One of my friends. I've come with two friends to do some writing for 3-4 days in one of Jane Austen's houses. Yes, so it's very exciting.
Are you preparing your next book?
Yes, I'm writing my next book. I have to finish it very soon as well. That's why I've come away, so I can spend time just writing.
Dorothy, do you think you can get close to your mic again, or computer or phone, please?
I will try and get closer to my mic. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I don't think you need a lot of introduction, but I will. So Dorothy was born in 1971, so we are same generation, and she has a doctor in psychology and journalism.
I got a degree in journalism. I've got a degree in psychology and media. I've got a master's in journalism, and I was recently given a doctorate, an honorary doctorate by Brighton University.
Oh, okay. Congrats on that. Okay. So Dorothy used to work as a journalist and as an editor, but then she wrote. Let me just explain to the audience what I explained to you before. Pessoal, eu estou muito doente. Eu tive a noite toda cheia de febre. Hoje tive o dia todo de cama. Estou a tomar medicamentos. A minha cabeça não está a 100%, portanto é fácil de me falhar aqui alguma coisa. Portanto, peço desculpa por isso. So, Dorothy, you wrote your first book, but then your second book, My Best Friend's Girl. Let me check in Portuguese. I have to check the original title. Okay, so My Best Friend's Girl. That was also the first book I read from you. And today I have a Patreon. And this month, the 2 last weeks of February, on the book club, I set the challenge to read a Dorothy Koomson book. And every time they ask me for my advice on your books, I'm going to share with you what are my favorites of your books, okay? So there are My Best Friend's Girl, The Ice Cream Girls, I think it's my favorite, The Rose Petal Beach, and When I Was Invisible. Those are my favorite ones. First question, it's an easy question. Dorothy, I know that you have been in Portugal. So can you tell us when you were here, what did you do, and how come it's taking so long to come back to Portugal?
Well, I last time I was there, I think it was about 12, 11 years ago, and um, I really loved it. I loved coming to Portugal, meeting all the readers, and seeing. I went to the aquarium, and I did a few other things. I loved it. For some reason, I've just never been back ever since. I mean, we've had past 5 years. It's been a bit strange, but I, yeah, I should have come back by now. I must come again very soon. So I'm sorry I haven't been, but I will come back soon. I will
You
definitely.
should come this June to the book fair.
This
You
June. It might be a pushing it, but I will get the dates and I'll see if I can come this June. If not, I will definitely come another time. Definitely.
okay? Okay. So I have a few questions for you here. Okay. So, this one's about your books and writing process. Your books blend romance and suspense in a unique way. How do you find the balance between these two genres? Because lately you have been on your latest books on your thriller side, not the cutie side that we had on the first books. How do you balance that?
The thing is, our lives are full of all different things, aren't they? Romance and drama. Hopefully, not too much drama, but lots of humor. And I like to blend all those things in, like our almost our everyday lives. And if you're in a bit of a Dorothy Koomson drama, then you're in it and you'll go through a lot. And so I want to pull the reader out and say, "Do you know what? It's going to be okay." So we'd have a bit of romance, we'd have a bit of humor to kind of calm things down. So when I'm writing and some of the scenes are very intense, I will sort of think, "Do you know what? I need to calm things down a bit with a bit of humor or a bit of normal everyday life where they go and have a meal or they have a coffee or a bit of romance, just to make sure that people aren't constantly um, anxious with the reading." So it is a conscious effort. I want to make sure that people have a good reading experience, because if all the way through you're on edge, it's not good. But I like to keep people ramped up though.
I haven't read my other husband. It's the one that I have here. But on this last one, Every Smile You Fake, there was a lot of spicy things that you're not used to put it on your books. And I was like, that's some kinky shit Dorothy's writing now. And I talked with my subscribers, the girls, about that, because each of us are reading different books, because it wasn't just your latest book on the book club, it was Dorothy Koomson, because I wanted them to experience all those books, your prior books that are really also very good. And I mentioned this has like two sex scenes that are very, very spicy. How come you haven't wrote those spicy things, or just now it makes sense and it did make on the other books it did make sense?
Yes, it didn't make sense in the other books. Some of the other books have spicy scenes. My other husband has a few spicy scenes, and in the latest book, Give Him to Me, the sequel to Every Smiley Fake, there are a few spicy scenes. I like writing spicy scenes, and for me, it's very important that my characters who are going through a lot of bad things. A lot of drama happens to them. I want them to have something nice as well. I want them to have normal sex lives, especially in thriller books. A lot of bad things happen to women in thriller books, and I wanted to always have my characters be empowered and to feel and to have a good time in different areas of their life. So, and I like writing those sort of scenes. I just enjoy it, especially with those two characters. I just like the chemistry.
They have a lot of chemistry, and it had to be like that.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's kind of very explosive chemistry, and
yeah.
then something happens in the next book in Give Him to Me, which kind of throws everything into disarray.
Okay. And do you know? Well, probably in Portugal, probably 2026.
I
Your
think
next
so.
book.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Next question. Many of your characters face past traumas. What inspires you to write such intense and moving stories?
I like to examine what makes a person tick. And a lot of the time, what makes a person tick is something that's happened in the past that they then have to deal with or respond to in the present. So I have a lot of backstory in my books. I know some people don't have as much flashbacks and going back in time as I do. But for me, a lot of the way people are nowadays is because of something that's happened in their past. And I like to examine that and to see how those things influence your life now, and also how you can rewrite your history almost. You can do things in the present that will stop the past kind of constantly influencing your life. I mean, I like to think that at the end of my books, my characters have all been on a journey. They have dealt with the issue that is from their past that is causing the problems in the present, and they are moving on to somewhere better. I mean, not necessarily a happy ending, and I know some people have been very unhappy with my endings because everyone doesn't end up together and end up happy, but they have a good ending, I think, and that's what's important. They have an ending that is realistic and true to the journey that they've been on.
To be honest, I don't remember if I didn't enjoy any of your endings because I don't like happy endings. So life isn't all that happy. So you tend to write about truth, and if
Yes.
they all stay together in love and all that, no, that's not real life at
No,
all.
it's not real
So
life.
okay, Dorothy. So what is your sorry? What is your writing process like? Do you plan everything in advance, or does the story evolve naturally?
I don't plan everything in advance, and the story does evolve naturally. Sometimes I'll start writing and I won't know how it's going to end, and I won't know what the twist is going to be. Sometimes I'll go for a walk and something in my head will say, right, that's what needs to happen. I also don't write in order, so I don't start at the beginning and finish at the end. Sometimes I will write the end first, sometimes I'll write the middle and then jump back and write the beginning. So what I normally do is if I have an idea, I will talk it out, and then I'll speak to my agent and I'll speak to my publisher and explain the story I want to write. And they will usually say, yes, that's a good idea. Or are you sure this will work and this will work? And then I'll start writing the scenes in my head. So I will sometimes have scenes that that may not even end up in the book, but they're in my head and they're conversations or they're things that happen with the characters, and I'll write those things down. And as the story evolves, sometimes, like I say, those scenes don't end up in the book, or they'll be moved to the front of the book or moved to the end of the book. So that's my usual thing. I don't really plan, but what I do, which is light planning, is I will start writing down the things, the scenes in my head. I'll write them on post-it notes and stick them on the wall. And so until I've got a whole wall of what needs to happen, what has happened, what I've written, what I need to write. and each character will have a different colored post-it note.
Hmm.
So I can see just by looking which character has a lot of plot and story and which character needs more plot and story, if that makes sense.
Makes sense, makes sense. And I was curious one thing. You mentioned that when you have an idea, you reach out to your publicist and your agent. Wasn't it supposed to reach out to your editor, or probably you have a real keen relationship with both your agents and your publicist, and you want their opinion as well?
No, I meant my editor. I meant publisher, not publicist. I
Oh,
meant
okay, yeah,
I
okay.
so my
But did
editor
you
and
say
my
publicist, or probably I
I know
misheard?
I think I said publicist by accident. So
Oh,
I
okay,
meant my
okay.
editor at the publisher.
Yeah.
Yes, so my editor and my agent, both of them, I always speak to both of them about the story idea. Both my editor and my agent. Yeah.
Okay. So, have any of your books have been particularly difficult to write, or just
Um,
one? The one that you probably, the one that you struggled more, and the other one that you said, I don't know, probably your favorite. Probably you don't have a favorite, but the one that you struggle the most, and the other that is like your favorite.
the one I struggled with the most was When I Was Invisible. Um, just because I was going through a bereavement and it was a very, very hard time. And I had to keep writing because it is my job and I have to do my job. So I really struggled. Yeah, I really found it hard to keep going, to keep writing. And at the end of it, my husband said, "I've never seen you look this terrible and this sort of like flat out." So it took me a long time to recover from writing that book.
But it
Um,
worked. I gave it 5 stars to that book.
Thank you. And it meant a lot to me. It was a very important book, and the subject was very important. And finding out about that subject was very important to me. Um, the book I like every book that I'm working on. I love it and I hate it, if that makes sense. I love what I'm writing, but it's also really hard work, so it's always like really hard going. I particularly enjoyed writing Give Him to Me, um, because there's a couple of things that happen in there which I very much enjoyed creating. Um, but I love I like writing my books. I think that probably the first one, which wasn't the first one published in Portugal, the
Yeah.
Cupid Effect. That one I really liked writing it because I had no expectations. I didn't have a publisher. I didn't have anything basically, or an agent. So I just wrote that.
It was your first little baby.
My first little baby to go out into the world. And, I wrote it every day on the train to work. I used to sit there with a pen and paper writing it. And on the way home on the train and at the weekends, I used to just sit there and write it. And it was very much, like you say, my first little baby.
So, Dorothy, how does it feel to know that you have so many readers here in Portugal? Because ever since 12 years ago, I read your book, probably 12, 13. And then I started this YouTube channel. I noticed that you have, I did several videos of reviews of your books, but then I had a few videos with my favorites of Dorothy's, or all Dorothy's books I have. And you really have a lot of fans here. And today I found out that you have that your books are translated to 30 countries. So it's a big thing. It's a big thing.
Mm.
And also I did know that the Ice Cream Girls had a series, TV series. And let's pretend that I was from Netflix and I was going to reach out to you. Dorothy, you have all the money in the world. so we can make an adaptation from your book to do a Netflix series, which book would you choose?
I can't choose. That's like asking me to choose which one of my children I like the most.
Yeah.
My poor children, my poor little books sitting there minding their own business, and I go,
Dorothy,
"Oh, I
I
want
know, I
you."
don't know if something happened with your mic because I can
Oh,
barely
okay.
hear you.
I said I can't really choose
I know.
my
Yeah.
children, my poor children, my poor little books. Can you imagine me saying, "Oh, I prefer you to that one"? No, I can't choose. I can't at all. Do you know what? I really am touched that I have so many readers in Portugal. I really, I just feel so honoured that so many people read my books still, even after all this time, they still support me. And I mean, I love it. I'm just, it really makes me feel emotional. And I was telling my friends about coming to the book fair all those years ago and meeting so many readers who were just, they were all so lovely, and they all queued up, and they, to speak to me, and it was just lovely. It was just really, I feel really touched all the time thinking about how
Yeah.
many
Portuguese
supporters
people
I
are
have there.
very warm.
Yes, it was
And
a lovely
once you come here, this year or next year, you'll find that you have much more fans than you had 12 years ago. So it will be
thank you.
very, very good for you. So your special guest, your protagonists are often strong, complex Black women. Do you feel that there is still a gap in literature when it comes to representation?
I think there is a gap in which books are promoted and which books are pushed forward. And I think there are so many, there is, from when I started 20 years ago to now, there are so many more people, different types of people writing books, and that is fantastic. And different types of people writing all different types of books, and I think that's amazing. And I wanted to continue, but also I think certain books don't get pushed. They don't get as much marketing and as advertising as other books, which is sad because there are so many fantastic books out there. So I think the publishing world is missing out, and readers are missing out because they aren't getting to see how many amazing books there are out there. So yes, there is still a gap, but it's in particular areas. Um, and people not buying, publishers not buying books by people because they think, oh, we've got one by a Black author, we've got one by an Asian author, rather than thinking this person is telling this story and that person is telling that story, whoever they are.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. For just a curiosity, one of my favorite authors uh, is from the UK. It's a Black man. Sorry, it's a Black man from the UK. I will let you know the name. Here in Portugal, I started reading him like 20 years ago, 2022. They had several books translated. And 4 years ago, they translated another one, but then it didn't sell much. They never, they stopped bringing in his books. It's Mike Gale. I love him.
Mm-hmm.
In here in Portugal, Ladlit, it's not, when you have chicklet, I think it sells a lot, but with guys, it doesn't. And it would be an honor to meet him also because I think he's very big in England, in the UK, but here not so much. And I remember just sharing this with you because I really like his books also. Um, let me. Okay, how important it is to give choice to Black characters in stories that are not limited to narratives of suffering. And you can give the example that we mentioned before about the spicy things, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's very important, and that's why I am happy that so many different writers are writing different types of books, because for a long time we were black authors, authors of color. We were expected to write books that are about racism and suffering and being treated badly, and that was what they wanted people us to write. And our lives are so much more than that, and it's really depressing how they wanted to push us into this box of, oh, you need to tell this story, or the other box is, oh, you need to teach us things about this. And my job is not to teach anybody anything about stuff. My job is to show you what the world is like, to reflect it, and also to entertain you. You know, I'm an entertainer as well as somebody who is showing you a different part of the world and a different part of life. And it always amazes me how people will accept someone living on Mars before they'll accept a black person being in the 1870s or something and not a slave. You know, it's amazing how they will accept one thing which is actually implausible, rather than accept that a black person lives their life and they don't suffer everything, or they don't sit there considering how they've been badly treated throughout their life, and that we do have joy and we do have fun and we do have fantastic sex lives. You understand what I mean? It's amazing how it's hard for people to conceive sometimes. But what's also great is that there are more and more of us writing these books that show that that is the reality. We do have moments of joy. We can be police detectives. We can be profilers. We can be nuns or whatever. And we can do it without suffering in there as well, in that story.
In all of your books, I also learn a lot because as a white female, I don't have, like, for example, the hair issue. And sometimes in your characters, you explain that. And one thing that I've always noticed in your books, it's you don't have to say like I'm a black woman. You leave several things that we start to understand that she is not white. And another thing that I really find it comfy in your books, it's almost all of them are set in Brighton, right? It's where you live. Okay.
Yes.
So can you tell us about that love relationship that you have with Brighton?
Well, when I
Let me
first
just,
started
sorry, Dorothy. Today, as I was waiting for my fever to go away. Oh my God, this is my cat. That cat. I was watching the Robert De Niro's new series on Netflix, and there was also Brighton Beach, New York, and I said
yes,
Brighton, Dorothy Koomson, always.
yeah, that's it. Because there's a Brighton, and they do. There's one in Australia as well, and in Australia they have beach huts like they do in Brighton in England as well. Um, the When I first started writing books, because I was a very big reader. I've always been a very big reader, and when I used to read commercial books when I lived in London, all of those books were set in London. They always felt like they were set in London. And for me, London is bigger. Sorry, the UK is bigger than London. I love London. It's my home city and I will always love it. But the UK is bigger. So when I first started writing books, I made a very conscious effort to set them outside of London. And the only other place I'd lived for a long time outside of London was Leeds. So I set them all in Leeds in the north of England. And then I moved to Australia and for 2 years. And then I moved back to England and I moved to Brighton. So I decided to set them in Brighton because that's where I lived. And
You'll have a street there with your name.
I should do. And I'm going to campaign for that. And I think everyone should campaign to get me a street or a bus, even just a bus, my name
Yeah.
on the side of a bus. Um, and I mean, I love Brighton. It's such a great place, even when it's raining or cold, or crazy winds. It is still a great place to be. So I've always wanted it to be a really good and solid backdrop for my books. With the other day, I went out with my husband and we went to a few Brighton Mermaid. There's a few places in Brighton that's mentioned, and we went to a few of those places. We went for a meal and went to the pubs. That were I was like, we were doing the Brighton Mermaid tour um, on this
That's
Saturday
another
evening.
business that should be
Yeah.
set there. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you just a few questions on your on a personal note. Okay, what led you to pursue a writing career, and did you always know that you wanted to tell stories?
Well, when I was very young, I used to read. My mum taught me and my siblings to read and write before I went to school, because we go to school a lot earlier in England than you do in Portugal. So I went to school at 4, and
Mm-hmm.
my mum taught us all to read and write before I went to school, so I could read and write. And we used to go to the library. I spend a lot of time in libraries, and I used to love reading. And then my mum mentioned when I was 13 that I should think about writing a book rather than hanging out with my friends in the streets. And I never did hang out with my friends in the streets. It's just something she said. So I thought, oh, okay, I could write a book. So I did. I just thought I could do it. So
Yeah,
at that,
you wrote a book when you were 13.
I wrote a book when I was 13. It was called There's a Thin Line Between Love and Hate. And it was set in America. I'd never been to America. And it was about this big drama about this girl whose mum had left, and her dad had a new girlfriend, and she didn't like the girlfriend, and there was a new boy at school. None of this has ever happened to me, so I knew nothing of it. But I wrote this story, and every night I would write a chapter in my school book, and then next morning at school I would hand it out to my friends to read, just because I loved this creating this drama. And so I just carried on from there. I love making things up. So I just carried on writing these stories, and eventually, a long, long time later, got published.
Okay. So, apart from writing, what are your other passions or hobbies?
Um, so, writing isn't my passion or hobby anymore. It used to be before I was published, but now it's my job, my full-time job. So although I do still like making things up in my spare time, I have, particularly in the past couple of years, I've been sewing. I've done a lot of sewing. I love sewing, and
Sewing, but not knitting, just sewing.
I'm not very good at knitting. I can knit. When I had COVID a couple of years ago, I was stuck in my bedroom, sort of isolating. So I knitted a hat, and I could crochet and I could knit a bit, but not as well as I can sew. But because like two and
When
a
you
half
when
years
when you mention sew, it's like doing clothes in the machine. It's like
on the
sewing.
machine, yeah, on the machine,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
sewing machine, yeah. So I can't. 2.5 years ago, I couldn't sew at all. So and then I was thinking, oh, I'll just buy some cushion covers. And then my mother-in-law actually showed me how to use the machine, how to thread the machine properly, because I couldn't work out how to do it. And then after that, I've just been making all sorts of things. And I've made a couple of outfits. Recently, I made some book pouches to go out with the latest book. Yeah, I love sewing, and I love reading. That's one of my biggest passions.
What are you reading
Reading.
right now?
Right now, I am reading nothing because I'm writing a book, and I try not to read other books whilst I'm writing. But I've just read a whole load of books for the launch of Give Him to Me over in England. I had something called Thrill Fest, which was a festival, one evening festival. So I had six writers, six women thriller writers. So I read all of their books. So I had Simon Mear, and she wrote The Khan and Vengeance, and Lisa Jewell, whose last book was
I've read two books of Lisa Jewell. Yeah.
yeah, and there was Keir Abdullah
Mm-hmm.
and Nadine Matheson and Araminta Hall and
Araminta Hall. Give me
yeah,
1 second. I have her book here.
which
It's
one's
about a
that?
stalker.
Oh, yes,
I love that book.
this one, Our Kind of Cruelty.
Yeah, yeah, love it. But I don't
Yeah, I'll
think
tell her because
the
she's my friend
publisher.
I'm on holiday with.
Sorry.
She's my friend I'm on holiday with.
Oh, really?
Yes,
But I don't think the publisher. I don't know. I just think they only have that book from her. I really, really. That's the kind of a thriller that I like. It
yes,
reminds me of You by Caroline Kepnes.
yes,
But
absolutely.
I really loved her book. Yeah.
Yeah, and that didn't have a happy ending, did it?
I don't remember, but I don't think it did.
It was not a happy ending.
No, the book was very, very original because
Yeah.
when you read it, I read a lot of thrillers, and
Mm,
when you read a lot of thrillers, sometimes you don't have like a surprise moment because
mhm.
you have seen this, you know. But then I never forgot about that book. It's
Yes.
really good.
Yeah. And the final person was Louise Hare, who writes historical crime books set in the 1930s, which was really good as well. So yeah, so I've read all of those books recently, and I loved it.
You read
I
all those books
yes,
in
absolutely.
what, 6 months?
It's over 6 months. Well,
Ah,
actually,
okay.
the 3 months because I was doing the festival, so I had to read them so I could interview
Oh,
them.
okay.
So, and I I love reading. A few years ago, I was a judge on the Women's Prize, and I had to read a lot of books. And I loved it because I got to read so many books that I just would never have picked up
Mhm.
if I hadn't been forced to read them as well. So yeah, that's my other passion, reading.
Okay, Dorothy, I don't have any more questions, but let me check with Nuno if we have some questions in Portuguese, okay?
Okay.
Nuno, não sei se estás aí. Se estiveres aí, Nuno, vê por favor no chat se há algumas mensagens a mais que se possa partilhar aqui com a Dorothy ou algumas questões. I'm just waiting on him
Yeah.
to see if there's. Oh,
Hello, hello.
hello.
Antes de mais, obrigado a todos os que nos estão a ver. Dorothy, I'm just saying hello in Portuguese for all the audience. And yes, we have some questions here. So let me check. So,
Queres expor que eu
Carolina
traduzo?
Caires. Yeah, Dora, if you don't mind, I can say the questions and Dorothy just answer.
Ah, sim,
It's all
sim,
right?
claro. Go ahead.
So I think it's easier. So Carolina Caires,
Consegues expor aí no chat para aparecer?
just let me. Yeah, I think so.
Hum.
Yes, Dorothy, are you reading the
Yes.
question?
Do you write more than one book at the same time? I don't
Yes.
write more than one book. Last year, I'd write 3 books though in one year, for different people. I had a book that I self-published, and which was The Baking Detective. From my other husband, the main character is a writer, and she writes sort of detective books about a woman who bakes. And so I wrote that book as if though I was the main character. It was only ebook, and I had another story to write as well. So yes, I don't write at the same time. I write them one after the other, but I do them very close together.
All right, let's see another one. I think yes, we have another one. So it's a good bit longer, but I think it's going to be all right to read it. So yes.
House market. Yeah, it's great. Come and live
Yeah.
in Brighton. Come to Brighton. We would love to have you living here in Brighton. No, it's a great place to live. Yeah, so if you're serious, think about it. And yeah, I can tell you lots of places to go, lots of things to do in Brighton. So yeah, it's great. Come to Brighton. Everyone should come to Brighton, I think.
So let's check another one. I think there's another. No, it's
Probably they didn't create many questions because I didn't tell them to. Normally on my YouTube channel, I'm always saying, if you want, just do some kind of question and then I'll pop up here. But I didn't know that Nuno could be here or
that there are some just showing now. Yeah, because we can ask people now to make the questions. So everybody is free to make questions. So agradecemos às pessoas que quiserem agora fazer questões, que nós vamos começar a passá-las para a Dorothy responder. So we're going to show another one.
What is a topic you would love to explore in a book? What I can't think of anything at the moment, because whenever I have an idea about something I want to explore, I generally then go and write a book about it. With the last book, Give Him to Me, I wanted to write a story about a girl or a child who grew up in a bad family environment, and how she copes with it and what she does as she becomes an adult, and how it affects her. With Every Smile You Fake, I really wanted to look at the subject of toxic masculinity, but also the internet and social media and how it influences our lives and what we can do to keep ourselves safe. So that was a subject I wanted to, that's always very prominent at the moment. It's something that's a part of all of our lives at the moment. So I wanted to write about that. So that's what I did. So whenever I have an idea about something I want to explore, I will write about it. So the next book, which I can't really tell you about, but it's another subject that I'm very interested in, and it's about schools and what goes on in schools. But that's all I can tell you about. So you're the first to hear about this anywhere, that the next subject is about schools and what goes on in schools.
Dorothy and Noon, let me share something with you. I won't say her name, but it's an author from the UK, also translated here and edited by Porta Editora. And I have met her twice. And the first time I met her, I did something with her regarding her book. And I told her, once you get to Lisbon, you'll fall in love with the city, the food, the people, and all that. She went crazy with Portugal, with Lisbon. And then she came back a few months ago, and I was with her. And last week she told me that her new book is coming out in English, not in Portuguese, in English, and it is set in Lisbon. So Dorothy, probably you'll have a book about Portugal once you come here.
Well, Flavors of Love is set in Portugal. There's a lot of the book that's called Flavors of Love. The occasional title in England. It's set in Portugal. They're in Lisbon.
Let me check if I read this one. In Portuguese, in Portuguese is os muitos aromas do amor, I think. Let me check.
Yeah. That was set in Lisbon. They meet on the plane to Portugal, and it ends in Portugal as well.
I think I read that one. Yes, I did, but I don't remember the story. It was long ago when I
No,
read that novel.
but I was there. I have put my love for Portugal in my book already. Don't you worry.
So I think that we have some more questions. Some of them I think that you answered already, but just to you to know. Let me check. What your favorite genre to read?
I like all books. I have to say, I do like thrillers, but I also like a romance. I like. I don't like horror. Horror scares me. I'm a bit creeped out because staying in one of the rooms in the house we're staying in, I was like, my friend said, "Oh, do you want to stay in this room?" I was like, "No, it's too creepy. I'm too scared." But I like reading all sorts of books. I do. One of my favorite things to do is to go to a library or a bookshop and just to look at the books that are there and to pick them up and just to sometimes to buy a book without even knowing what it's about. I like to give all sorts of books a try. So yeah, I'm very open minded about what I read. I think that's the best way for me as a writer to be, because I don't want to have any preconceptions about things.
So I think you have another one.
What is my favorite book of all time? See, this is a hard question because I have read so many books, and what how I feel about a book changes over time. So, we were talking earlier on about Wuthering Heights, and every time I read Wuthering Heights again, I hate the people in it more. I just realize how much I dislike every single person in Wuthering Heights. But it's a great book. It's really well written. It's a really good story. But ugh, it's just really, they're just awful people. Everyone is just awful. So I will say The Cupid Effect, because that is the book that made me a published author, and that's what set me on my journey. So yes, my favorite book of all time is The Cupid Effect by Dorothy Koomson. I don't know if you've heard of her.
She's just starting. We haven't heard.
just 20 years into her starting journey.
So I think there's a question here. So, and sorry about the other questions because there now are some questions here. But I think
Olha,
this
oh Nuno,
one,
se tiveres aí também aquelas frasinhas fofinhas que dizem Dorothy,
yeah,
gosto muito de ti.
some people are saying hello, Dorothy. Nice to have you here. A lot of people say good night, and they are happy to watch this live. So I will put this one because I think, in my opinion, that it's going to be like a nice one.
If you could choose your next book to be adapted.
Already asked that one.
No. Sorry.
Dorothy can choose between all her babies.
I can't choose between my babies. No.
No. Sorry, it's not this one because there's another one that's appear, and then it's going to be not the last one, but it's not this one.
What are your thoughts on book talk and its influence on the publishing industry? My thoughts are anything that gets people to read is wonderful. I do think that there is a certain type of book that goes huge on book talk, and that's not necessarily the best books. I mean, let me dial it back and say, writing a book is very hard. Getting a book published is very hard. So I respect anybody who can do that. Some books are not for me, and I think some books are not necessarily the most positive influence, but that doesn't mean I think anything should be banned. I think people should read what they want. But it does tend to be that book talk, especially a certain type of book, is the certain type of book that people will want to read and people will recommend and goes viral. And as a result, because publishing is always feels like it's always playing catch up, they come after stuff, so they will sort of like funnel their resources into things that they think are going to be things that are popular on Book Talk. And as I said, I don't think necessarily they are the best books that go viral, but as far as anything that encourages people to read is good. So my thoughts on Book Talk aren't one way or the other. I think it's a very nuanced conversation you have to have about it, because reading is good. Maybe some of the books that become viral aren't necessarily the books that you'd want to become. I wouldn't want to become viral, but other people will think very differently.
Couldn't agree more.
So I don't know if there's somebody that one making another question, because there are some that they already answered within the conversation. So, all right. This is one, the long one. People saying thank you, Dorothy, for answering these questions, and I will show in this one.
How important is it to establish your characters before writing a new novel, and what kind of commitment do you have to them? Do you know, it's not that important for me. For other people, they can't start writing until they have a character. They know everything about a character. And for me, a lot of the time they will come as the story develops. I did a while back write a sheet for people who do need to establish a character. They could write down the things about their character, like where they grew up, if they wear glasses, if they drink tea or coffee, because those are the things that make a character seem realistic. But for me, as I'm writing, the character develops. So, for example, the character of Kez in Every Smile You Fake, she, as the story develops and as it unravels in my head, I got to know her a bit more, and I got to know the fact that she doesn't clean her car very often. That doesn't make it into the book, but it makes it into my head about what sort of a person she is, and the fact that she will wear, she won't wear outdoor clothes in the bedroom because of a hygiene thing. So if she's worn something outside, she will take it off before she goes into the bedroom. Again, that doesn't make it into this book, but it's there as a part of her character. So the character becomes established as I write, and by the end of the book, I know everything there is to know about them. For example, one of them will drink tea, but will only drink half a cup of tea, or she'll only eat 5 biscuits from a packet rather than 10. You know, little things that aren't important for the plot of the story, but are important in establishing in my mind who that person is as I'm telling their story. So for me, not that important. They kind of grow as you go, like in life, I suppose. When you get to know somebody, you don't know everything there is to know about them as soon as you meet them. You get to, as you kind of, your friendship unravels and becomes deeper, you learn more about them.
All right, Laura, do you want to continue?
Eu não tenho acesso aqui a nada.
No, there's no more questions.
Okay. So, Dorothy, I would like to thank you for being here with me and Nuno. You're on a holiday, just gave us a few minutes of your time. I hope we can do this next several times,
Yes.
in person or here. And also, I want to thank Nuno because he's supposed to be ironing and he's here.
I already. Sorry.
I don't like ironing, so respect to you for doing the
I
ironing.
don't iron. I don't even own an iron.
Yeah.
So
Now it's quite strange because everybody gonna listen and don't know the
no,
context of.
everybody will notice that you're a great guy that irons his own clothes.
All right. That's the
Oh,
best
that's
part.
good.
All right. I
That's
assume
good.
that.
Thank you
So,
for to both of you. Okay, and I think this live will still be available to watch on
yeah,
Porta Editora YouTube channel,
all right.
right?
So,
Thank you so
Dorothy,
much,
name of.
Laura. It's been lovely speaking to you, and I really hope we speak again soon. I will
We
look at,
will. We will.
yeah,
I will
do.
stalk you down in a good way.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. I've had a really great time. Thank you. And thank you,
Yeah.
Nuno, as well. It's been nice to
Yeah,
speak.
Dorothy, thank you so much in name of Porta Editora, and thank you to Dora to have this kind of initiatives. So we love to work together. I think it's a nice way to know our authors and to show how they are normal people and that we love to stay with us. And I hope you come to Portugal as soon as you can. And I think it's the most opinion from all people like
Let me
Dora
just
said.
share something, Noon, that you were saying. Um, I've done several conversations with foreign authors, and sometimes my subscribers ask, "Are you nervous?" Or, "Oh, you're going to talk to that person." At the end of the day, they're just regular person, and I've had dinner with Pedro and a very big author from the UK, and she was there drinking wine with us, and having dinner. People are all this. We're all people,
Yeah, of course.
and
Yeah,
that's a good thing. And I really like that thing that Nuno said, bringing out here to my subscribers and all the people that are watching, that the authors are just down to earth as we are, and they are available for everyone. And I think for people that create things about books, YouTube, book talk, Instagram, whatever, blogs, podcasts, I really like to bring that part, a human part to the books. That's really
that's
important
true.
for me.
That's true. Quero também agradecer a todos que estiveram desse lado por estarem aqui connosco. E esperemos ter muito mais destas iniciativas. Obrigado a todos. Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dora. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Desligas, Nuno. Nuno,
Yeah.
tens que desligar.
Já desliguei.
Não, ainda está a ouvir.